welcome back to Brashenomics. We've been talking a lot about choosing the right person to work with. And, in the case of what Jim's talking about, if you want to do a remodel and you want to know what all the options are before you start putting the hammers and the nails in, the hammer to the nail and the screwdriver to the screw and the wood to the floor, then, there are options. Well, the same thing is true when you start thinking about the professional that you want to work with in buying or selling a house. I mean, it's not just what house do you want to buy or what price do you want to sell it at. A lot of it has to do with who do you want to work with that's going to help you accomplish some of those goals. And even at the end of the last hour, we had brought up a lot about, well, how do you know when a relationship starts off good, but maybe has gone bad? That gut feeling versus the rational feeling, and really understanding what goes into choosing somebody to help you with such a big decision. Alex Matthews joins us. She's a full-service agent for buyers and sellers who helps also in short sale, relocation, and first-time home buyers. Hello, Alex.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thanks.
Good. So, you've been in the business a long time. You've earned the awards that prove that you at least know how to service people. How is it that somebody what's that first step, I guess, for someone purchasing versus selling and really maybe determining what type of real estate agent is going to be right for them?
That's a really good question, especially right now with the real estate portals changing and completely internet-based. Full-service agents, first of all.
What does that mean exactly?
It means full-time. You're dedicated 24/7. You're on call. That's your only occupation. I think it's really, really important because you really need that time to dedicate to keep up on the current trends, to keep up on legislation, to keep up on the ever-changing field. It's very, very exciting, as you guys know.
Yeah. Well, but that makes a lot of sense because you wouldn't necessarily go hire you don't necessarily want somebody to do part-time that's working on some pretty intimate pieces of your life. I don't want a part-time doctor or a part-time dentist who's like, yeah, I'm going to although dentists do seem to work part-time, don't they? Kind of that Monday through Wednesday schedule. But, it's kind of that same thing, right? You want somebody who's committed to the industry.
Absolutely.
Do you tend to think that more agents are committed to the industry than are not, though?
I would like to think that's true. Out of 21,000 agents in the Northwest Multiple Listing Service, though, there's a huge number of those that are actually part-time.
Yeah, I would think it'd probably be more than half, to be honest. Way more than half.
Yeah, I don't know the answer. But, it is a big amount. So, I guess, is that the first question you think people should ask themselves? If you're buying or selling, because I know at least it does happen where a real estate agent might be thinking, a client might be thinking, I really want a full-time agent, but my sister's best friend has her real estate license. What do you think about that? Is it a recipe for disaster?
I think it needs to be a professional relationship, first and foremost. People in your sphere of influence, it's great to work with referrals always, especially if they've done well for friends and family in the past. However, making sure that person is dedicated to you just like they would be somebody that they don't know. It's almost better to have somebody that is blind.
Yeah, no, it makes sense because you can't really fire your sister's best friend because there's a good chance you might have been in a wedding with them.
Relationship should be professional, sure.
You don't do business with friends, family, or fish, right? I don't know.
Fish?
Is that really a saying?
What?
I taught a seminar once, and the guy who was teaching said this, and I never really.
I've never heard that before, and I'm looking around the room right now, and I think you might have invented it.
Book of quotes of funny things Ben says. We're here with Alex Matthews, managing broker with Century 21 Real Estate. So, Alex, when you start, what advice then do you have? If somebody wants to search out an agent, and let's say. If we fade away or we shy away from maybe working with your friends, what are some of those questions you think that maybe a person, a consumer, a home buyer, or a home seller should ask?
I think the first thing should be is, are they full-time? Are they dedicated to you? Do they have the time to handle you from A to Z? There's a lot of people out there that work in teams, and I think it works for some people. I prefer personally to work with less clients and take them the full way through the process instead of having somebody else kind of having the client.
Well, I mean, but okay, I see what you're saying. I see where you're going with this, because you have these full-time agents, and I see where you're going. Like, you could be with one person. On the flip side, from our side, another side of it, though, I guess would be they're really complex deals, right? I mean, it's not. It's complex. Like, so coming from the mortgage business, we have a team because there is the setting up the loan, there's closing the loan, there's coordinating the loan, there's processing the loan. There's a lot of different pieces of it. When you look at real estate, I guess, that dedication, I guess, it's really important. I mean, whether it's a team or it's an individual, but knowing that person has time seems to be like one of the biggest things.
And I think that's what she was saying with being a full-time agent. I think that's definitely the best first question. And then, Alex, we had talked a little bit before the show about figuring out, if you're buying versus selling, that might affect the agent or the person you're going to work with too, right?
Yeah. A lot of people actually prefer to just carry listings and work with the sellers. Some people specialize in first-time buyers and in only working with buyers. And I think, honestly, in any industry as a professional, you need to have a good balance of both. But definitely, what is their intention? What do they need?
Yeah, it seems like if you're going to list your home, you probably don't want to work with someone that maybe only works with buyers and takes a listing every now and then.
Right. You need somebody that's doing it day in and day out.
Yeah, and
in the trenches.
Yeah, and there's a lot of tricky kinds, I guess, of transactions that aren't just your typical buying and selling. And what we had wanted to ask you about too is that when you've done a lot of work with short sales, and I think that that's something that a lot of agents shy away from. And I think that when you're trying to have someone help you and hold your hand through that type of transaction, that might be somewhere where you need a little bit more advice trying to find the right person to work with. And I know you've done a lot of those type of transactions. So what are some things you should look for when working with that type of professional?
Okay, good. If you're a buyer in this industry, well, selling.
And I know it's different buying versus selling, right? Yeah.
But no matter what you're doing, I mean, if you have a short sale, you obviously need a listing agent that's confident in their abilities to get it sold, no matter what bank you're going through, no matter when the regulations are changing. They're keeping on top of all of that. But when you're a buyer in this market, you really need to make sure that your agent understands the short sale process, because if you're out there looking at 10 properties in certain markets, you could have 7 that are short sales. And if your agent is knowledgeable about the process, it's going to be so much easier for them to guide you through the steps, because there are so many extra layers and several extra months of waiting without any definitive answers before you're even allowed to take yourself farther and get your loan rolling and being able to have the opportunity to close on that purchase. A lot of agents have shied away from short sales just because of the complexity. And, over the last 5 years, it's been, a challenge, to say the least, to keep up with the changing doors.
Well, and there's different, we hear about all the time. There's a lot of different, legislation changes and rules. Are there any concrete examples you can maybe give us quickly that make a short sale transaction for a buyer a little different, that would kind of, really give us an idea of why working with a professional that has a lot of experience is a good idea?
Sure. So an example would be you're a buyer and you're out there. You have 3 properties that you're interested in. Depending on how they're priced and how many days they've been on the market, maybe 2 of them are short sales. As a buyer, you have the opportunity to basically get under contract with one, have mutual acceptance with the seller, and have that process, the short sale process, started. In the meantime, while that's on the back burner and starting to the sellers gathering their information and giving it to the banks, it's my opinion that you should be out there looking at other options continuously, looking at new listings. Because the reality is that you can't count on that one property. There's so many variables involved, not just the lien holders, not the number of liens, IRS tax liens. The seller's financial situation could change from the time that they began the hardship to the time that it ends. There could be some dishonesty on the part of the hardship, which is huge. And so I never, it's hard to do when you like a property and you get an offer on it, but you really want to continue looking, and you want to have options set up for you at the end.
Yeah. Well, Alex, it does sound like, when it comes down to it, knowing what your options are, what you can get in and get out of seems to be a big piece, and finding somebody who can help guide you through that is a big part of that. Thanks so much for joining us again, Alex Matthews, Managing Broker with Century 21 Real Estate. When we come back, Jim Miller is going to join us along with Cameron Johnson and Heather Moore. We're going to discuss a little bit more about what's going on in the world of customers and clients and being a professional today. We'll be right back.